Television was very rarely preserved in the early years. In fact, when recording live programs via telerecording was introduced in 1947, big companies such as the BBC deemed the method to be of unacceptable quality, and didn't bother to utilise it until around 1953, and even then very rarely so. As such, a large chunk of Britain's own television history is considered lost, most of it even forever. This is British Broadcast, a history of lost television. Top of the Pops. Of the first 500 episodes shown between 1964 and 73, only about 20 complete recordings remain in the BBC archives, and the majority of these are from 1969 onwards. The earliest surviving footage dates from the 26th of February 1964, and consists of performances by Billy J. Kramer and the Dakoters and the Dave Clark Five. Some programs exist only partially, largely performances that were either pre-recorded or reused in later editions. There are also two examples of rehearsal footage, which are both from 1965, one which includes Alan Freeman introducing The Seekers, and another with Sandy Shaw rehearsing Long Live Love, both believed to be for the end of the year Christmas special. There are also cases of shows that exist only in their raw, unedited form. The oldest complete episode in existence was originally transmitted on Boxing Day in 1967. Only 5 complete recordings from the 1960s survive, 2 of which have mute presenter links. The most recent that is not held is dated 8th of September 1977. Most editions after this date exist in full, except a few 1981 to 85 episodes recorded live featuring mute presenter links, which caused the episodes to be skipped on the BBC4 reruns. Some off-air recordings, made by fans at home with a microphone in front of the TV speaker, exist in varying quality, including the Jimi Hendrix Experience performing a live version of Hey Joe in December 1966. Unfortunately, no high-quality audio recordings commonly used for scripted shows such as Doctor Who and Not Only But Also exist, so these amateur microphone recordings are all we have. Some segments of Top of the Pops which have been wiped by the BBC do survive in some form owing to having been included in other programmes, either by the BBC itself or by foreign broadcasters. What was thought to be the only surviving footage of the Beatles on the programme, for instance, comes from its reuse in episode 1 of the 1965 Doctor Who serial The Chase. Additionally, a number of recordings are believed to exist in private collections. In fact, 2 complete episode copies from 1967 held by a private collector were recovered in 2009. They were created using an early open reel-to-reel video recorder, and, whilst they had suffered major damage and degradation in audio and picture quality, one show featured Pink Floyd with original leader Syd Barrett performing See Emily Play, whilst the second contained Dave Davies singing his hit solo, Death of a Clown. Furthermore, an 11-second 8mm clip of the Beatles' only ever live performance on Top of the Pops from the 16th of June 1966 was unearthed. This was recorded by a viewer using an 8mm camera to film the live transmission on their television. A further 92-second clip on 8mm film was also discovered in the collection of music enthusiast David Chandler, who recorded it when he was 14 years old, using a blanket and curtains to cover the window so that it wouldn't reflect on the TV screen, so he could get the highest picture possible. It was shown at the Missing Believed Wiped event, synced up to the soundtrack of the original song, Paperback Writer. Other individual but complete clips that have surfaced over the recent years include the Hollies performing Bus Stop and the Jimi Hendrix Experience playing both Purple Haze and The Wind Cries Mary. Thanks to a deal between the BBC and German television network ZDF around the turn of the 1970s, several Top of the Pops clips were sent over to be shown on Disco, a similar styled chart show. This meant that performances from the likes of The Kinks, Ape Man, The Who, The Seeker, and King Crimson, Cat Food, still exist in German archives. Kaleidoscope is still on an active search, especially following the 8mm clip recovery, and more Top of the Pops segments may be found one day. If not, then full episodes, or higher quality audio recordings. The Gnomes of Dulwich. The Gnomes of Dulwich was a United Kingdom television sitcom originally shown in 6 episodes that aired from the 12th of May to the 16th of June 1969. Written by Jimmy Perry, the show starred Terry Scott, Hugh Lloyd, John Clive, Leon Thau, Anne DeVigia and Lynn Dalby as garden gnomes living at 25 Telegraph Road, Dulwich, London, England. The title is a reference to the term Gnomes of Zurich,
and was originally an idea by Perry to be a sketch on the Morecambe and Wise show to feed his lifelong fascination with gnomes. His wife was able to convince him that the material was full half-hour television show worthy, and he presented his ideas to the BBC, who loved it and commissioned a series in colour for BBC Two, even ensuring that the writer achieved his new target pairing in Terry Scott and Hugh Lloyd. The two stars were dubious at first that the idea could run for 6 episodes, but once in full costume they quickly warmed into their roles. On a set that was built to exaggerate their gnome-like status, they were joined by John Clive to become 3 British stone gnomes who looked down, in a superior way, on the Empire gnomes next door, who were made out of plastic. Like other series that Perry had written, he had a short cameo in the final episode. Humans were never seen, only heard, and the action would take place when they were not looking into the garden. The stone gnomes would help the audience take a new perspective on human behaviour by discussing the goings-on in the house, and yet exhibit the same snobbish attitude towards their plastic neighbours. A sort of humorous irony. Colin Bean, who played a variety of different roles in the series, recalled his time in his autobiography. Jimmy and Gilda were in my scene also as ornaments on a bric-a-brac stall at a garden party at the rear of 10 Downing Street. Jimmy was a plaster bust of Napoleon and I was a matching bust on a named bass of Beethoven. My few lines played on Beethoven's deafness, da-da-da-da, after Napoleon had made some cutting remarks. The joke being that at the end of the party, the only items left on the bric-a-brac store were the 2 garden gnomes. Frank Williams was in the same scene and recalled his experiences in his autobiography. Hugh and Terry played garden gnomes. I was in an episode in which the gnomes had been purchased at a Labour Party bazaar by Mary Wilson, wife of the Prime Minister. They stood at ground level contemplating the legs of the various guests at a garden party. Clad in Carnaby street trousers, it was quite difficult to find anything that fitted me in that haunt of trendy young people. I wandered around as a society photographer. As the audience only heard my voice and saw my disembodied legs, they were never quite sure who I was. But I decided that this was my one chance to play royalty, and that I was Lord Snowdon. This would be the final pairing of Terry Scott and Hugh Lloyd after a decade of success for the BBC. The fact they were in heavy disguise may have been in part a hint that their partnership was no longer a recognised audience winner. It's unknown if the show was cancelled or only ever intended to last for 6 episodes, but Perry once acknowledged in an interview that the 2 men in gnome costumes discussing life, race, religion, and everything gave the show a cult following. Unfortunately, as with many shows at this point, the BBC wiped the show from its archives, and not one episode is thought to exist. Some audio extracts and a handful of still photographs exist from the original production, but nothing else has surfaced. It's also a shame that the last ever performance by the duo as a double act can't be seen anymore. The surviving audio fragment itself is not actually from the broadcast episode, but a trailer featuring a clip from the first episode, presumably the week before it was broadcast.
You know your trouble. You go home with your eyes closed, mate.
How can I when they're painted open?
No, that's just a figure of speech.
Oh.
I mean, you take number 27 next door. Well, they've got one with a spade, one with a wheelbarrow, a load of them playing instruments. They've even got one with a cricket bat. A cricket bat's a laugh, isn't it? A cricket bat, they're all made of plastic. I've always said, you let one in before you know where you are, the whole street's full of them.
Not Only But Also and Goodbye Again. Not Only But Also is a sketch comedy show dual hosted by and starring Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. The show was originally intended as a solo project for Moore, called not only Dudley Moore, but also his guests. However, unsure about going at it alone, Moore invited his partner from Beyond the Fringe, Peter Cook, to guest in the pilot, alongside Diahan Carroll and John Lennon, the latter of which was to make 2 more appearances during the course of the series. The double act was so well received by the studio audience that Cook was invited to become a permanent fixture of the show, which became not only Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, but also their guests, though it was only ever really referred to as not only ... but also ... This somewhat cumbersome title was later referred to by Cook in an interview as another of Dudley's plodding ideas. The BBC wiped most editions of Not Only But Also in the late 60s and early 70s. Cook and Moore even offered to pay for the cost of preservation and buy new videotapes so that the old tapes would not need to be reused, but this offer was rejected. Some telerecordings of the black and white episodes survive, but as the completed videotapes of the colour third series were wiped, the only surviving colour sketches are the 16mm film inserts, all complete episodes being lost. In 2010, it was announced that off-air audio recordings for at least parts of all the episodes had been recovered, and that there were plans to make them available, although this has yet to actually happen. These off-air audio recordings are currently held at the National Sound Archive at the British Library in London, leaving them only known to exist privately. A 2016 documentary by Victor Lewis Smith, The Undiscovered Peter Cook, featured the first series extracts from Sir Arthur at the Tailor, long known to exist, and the final minute and 25 seconds of Pete and Dud on the bus, being reconstituted from film footage newly discovered from the Australian Broadcasting Company trailer department. Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, The Missing Sketches, transmitted on New Year's Day 2017, included further ABC trailer extracts from Pete and Dud, Diseases, and Pete and Dud, Sex. One remaining recovered clip, lasting 1 minute and 25 seconds, of Pete and Dud, Music, remains unscreened to this day. The missing episodes, including the third series colour episodes, may very well exist as black and white film copies in private hands, but this remains unconfirmed. The Best of DVD release from 2008 is still available for purchase on various websites.
The DVD only contains the 6 compilation episodes. This still leaves over half the extant material unreleased in any form. The scripts of 12 of the 29 Dagenham dialogues, most, but not all, from Not Only But Also, were published in a book of that title by Methuen in 1971, later reissued in 1988.
Between the second and third series, Cook and Moore made a series for ATV called Goodbye Again, directed by Sean Riordan, which was very similar up to the point of using the same music and reusing some sketches like Alan a Dale. Shows lasted an hour and were edited more heavily. None of the episodes are lost, although they only exist in black and white, having been originally recorded in colour, although some sketches pre-recorded on film still exist in colour thanks to the retention of the original negative reels.
Not in Front of the Children. Not in Front of the Children is a situation comedy created by Richard Waring that lasted for 39 episodes between 1967 and 1970. It starred Wendy Craig as Jennifer Corner, a rather scatterbrained middle-class housewife. Her husband Henry was a school art teacher, played by Paul Daneman in the comedy playhouse pilot House in a Tree and the first series, and subsequently by Ronald Hines for the rest of the series. They had 3 children, a boy in his early teens, played by Hugo Keith Johnston, and 2 girls who were slightly younger, played by Roberta Tovey and Jill Riddick. Charlotte Mitchell played her friend Mary. In later series, Jennifer had a baby and the family moved from the London suburb of Battersea to the country. It's significant mainly as Wendy Craig's first role as a scatty housewife. She played similar roles in several other series over the next 15 years, and continued to have a successful career on shows such as The Royal decades later. Unfortunately, owing to the wiping policy, only 8 episodes exist in the BBC archives, the other 21 being presumed lost. The surviving episodes are Episode 3 from Series 1, Episodes 2 and 5 to 8 of Series 2, and Episodes 4 and 13 from Series 4. Series 3 is completely missing from the BBC archives. No episodes broadcast in 1970 are known to exist either, all surviving episodes having been broadcast in 1967, 8 and 9. Additionally, one of the episodes that survives from Series 4 made in colour only exists as a black and white telerecording copy. All 8 surviving episodes are available to purchase on DVD. Given the surviving black and white episodes are most likely also film copies, the show could exist in private collections, but this remains to be seen. A radio adaptation of the programme that survived erasure was broadcast on BBC Radio 2 in 1969 and 1970, with Wendy Craig and Frances Matthews in the leading roles. Charlotte Mitchell reprised her role as Mary, and the children also reprised their roles as the children. The scripts were adapted from the TV scripts by Richard Waring. Since 2015, both series have been broadcast on BBC Radio 4 Extra, to preserve the show's legacy somewhat. Marty. Marty is a television sketch comedy series with Marty Feldman, Tim Brooke-Taylor, John Junkin, Roland McLeod, Mary Miller, and Peter Pocock, which was made in 1968. There was a second series made in 1969, retitled It's Marty. In total, 12 episodes and 6 specials, 4 of which were compilations of already existing episodes, the other 2 being festive one-offs, were produced. You may recognise Feldman from a series of different films such as Young Frankenstein, being famous for his distinct facial appearance with wide, crazy-looking eyes, but no apparent medical condition to explain it. He was just a unique, funny-looking guy, and we all loved him for it. A compilation of surviving sketches from the series are available on DVD under the title The Best of Marty Feldman, but not all episodes exist. The show, which was originally produced in colour, has a total of 12 episodes that exist in their original format, and an additional episode, Series 2 Episode 3, existing only as a black and white telerecording copy. 5 episodes remain incomplete or missing entirely. Those are episodes 1, 3, 4 and 6 from Series 1, and the January 1970 compilation 1 of the specials. Since a black and white telerecording does exist, it's entirely possible that more do also exist in private collections, but this remains to be seen.